Hello all, this is Halloween. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Since it is a holiday, I wanted to do something special and something different. So today, I'm going to be showing you 4 places in St. Pete that are known historical places and known to be haunted as well. You're going to love this episode, just sort of a prerequisite. Some of the places that we go today are shut down, so they're not all open. Perhaps they will be in the future. For today's episode, I chose to do all of my stories from my Halloween room here at home. And the reason for that is the weather is kind of questionable today. It's very windy. The places are in high traffic areas, so a lot of cars driving by, planes overhead, motorcycles driving by, things like that that would have really messed with the quality of the audio that I'm putting out to you. So what I wanted to do, just to make it a little more special, easier to hear, was I'm going to tell you about these places in the Halloween room, and I'm going to go out and take still shots of the buildings themselves. So let's give it a shot. Enjoy. We're here at MacArthur's Irish Pub on 4th Street in St. Pete, the finest Irish pub in town, even featuring live, authentic Irish music on the weekends. This is a great place if you want to come and celebrate St. Patty's Day. Gonna go in and have a bite to eat. There you go.
Oh, yes. And there is singing, there is dancing, and the Russian walkers come to the cross.
The place to be for Irish fun. Very long bar.
Now in the doorway there is standing a Cossack. With
The first haunted place we'll talk about here in St. Petersburg today is the Melting Pot. Between the 1930s and 1950s, the Melting Pot was home to artist Earl Gresh and his Earl Gresh Wood Parade. Gresh sold gifts and furniture and was a known and very talented muralist in the area. In addition, he was an angler, a speedboat racer, and band leader to the band Earl Gresh and his Gangplank Orchestra. The building has since become a French restaurant and a couple of other short-lived eateries, the latest being the Melting Pot. Evidently, the building's checkered past includes an illicit affair and murder-suicide, and some encountered a child spirit. Muffled conversations can be heard throughout the old restaurant and Wood Parade. People have made reports of equipment breaking and glass being shattered. It's unclear as to who the spirit is that haunts the building. However, you may encounter a very sweet spirit of a child or something a little more sinister. Now, it's no longer the Melting Pot. It closed on April 13th in 2020. It is located at 2221 4th Street. The Earl Gresh Cottage is now owned by Matt Powers, who is the owner also of Mad Beach Brewing Company on Johns Pass. Matt Powers is an avid collector of Earl Gresh artwork and artifacts, so it's all too appropriate for him to become the new owner. He's going to make it into a sort of brewery slash eatery, but just some interesting facts about the cottage itself. Matt Powers, the new owner, intends to bring out a haunted mirror that's in one of the back rooms. He's going to put it in the main bar. That's going to be definitely a sight to see. In addition to that, the chimney in the cottage was built in the 1930s with bricks from Fort Dade, which was the ruined military fort built on Egmont Key during the Spanish-American War. So it is known to be haunted. I think Ghost Hunters has gone in there. A few other paranormal investigators have been in the building to investigate. And a common thing that comes up is that handprints can be seen on the glass in the windows from time to time. So it's almost like when you go outside and there's steam on the windows, or it's cold outside and it's warm inside, you've got that steam on the windows, or if you've just taken a shower, you can make a handprint on the mirror. It's very much like that. So they've seen that. Different occurrences have happened there, while under investigation, just when it was previously the melting pot. I'm sure there's a lot more instances like that to come when Sesh opens up, and I'll be one of the first people there, believe me. So, that's our first one, the melting pot. Next, the Cordova Inn, located at 253 2nd Avenue North in downtown St. Petersburg, a local historic landmark and well-known haunted place. In 1921, the Cordova family opened up the Cordova Inn. Even though they were very successful for 7 decades, they ended up selling the establishment in early 1950s. The hotel after that changed ownerships several times, leaving the historic inn often in a constant state of disrepair. During the brief stints when the inn was vacant in the late 80s and early 90s, St. Petersburg became sort of an undesirable place to hang out. It was, just one of those downtown areas where you just didn't want to go there at night. That kind of like not very safe, kind of dangerous. So in the late 80s and early 90s, schoolboys would break into the vacant building at night, of course, and claim to have encountered the spirit of Major Domo, howling through the hallways in disapproval. Well, I would be too, so good for you, Major Domo. In 1999, the hotel closed officially, having been in a state of decline for several years, all the while maintaining the Cordova name. That was until 2001, when the inn's new owners completed renovations and decided to rename it the Pier Hotel. And in 2014, the inn embraced history once again, and it once again and still remains today the Cordova Inn. The Cordova Inn boasts 32 rooms, each with microwaves, refrigerator, wet bar, and claw-footed bathtub. So if you're in the area and you want to go check out a haunted place, it is known to be haunted by this Major Domo, who actually, during the hotel's original stint, when it was owned by the original Cordova family, it was their butler at the time. And I think over the years, they've sort of given him the name Major Domo. They don't know what his actual name was, or they can't remember it, or can't even really look it up. But it was something like Albert or Alfred, something very butler sounding or to that effect. And it is said that he's a sweet spirit, a kind spirit that kind of haunts the building, but not in a menacing way. He kind of makes sure everything is as it should be, because in life, he was a very trusted member of the Cordova family, so to speak. They trusted him with their hotel, and he was very happy to work there. He took pride in what he did. He took very good care of the establishment, made sure everything was in its right place. Tables were set neatly, that beds were made properly, that everything was cleaned just right. So he's a very welcomed spirit by the current owners of the Cordova Inn. They love him being there because he makes sure the place is up to par. That's the story of the Cordova Inn. Haslem's Bookstore, also a historic landmark here in St. Pete, is a new and used bookstore opened by John and Suzanne Haslam in 1933 during the Great Depression. Today it is owned by their daughter Suzanne Haslam and her husband Ray. Unfortunately, recently the bookstore closed down in March of 2020 due to the pandemic. There's speculation that it may never open again because the cats that lived in the bookstore and would greet people, they've found new homes for the cats. It is said to be haunted by the ghost of Jack Kerouac, who was a writer. And although he was born in Lowell, Massachusetts, he spent a lot of time here in St. Pete. Today, he still takes up residency in the old bookstore as he did in life. Kerouac died in 1969, bleeding to death in St. Anthony's Hospital here in St. Pete. His alcohol-ravaged body was laid to rest in his hometown of Lowell, Massachusetts. In life, he was a nomadic spirit, and his writings were some of the most influential to the Beat Generation. The Beat Generation was a literary movement which explored American culture and politics in the post-war era. Beat culture exhibited the rejection of standard narrative values. It was pretty much a hippie-esque literary movement, exploring the rejection of economic materialism, exploration of psychedelic drugs, and sexual liberation in the 1950s. The beatnik subculture was formed around the beat literary movement. So if you knew Sonny Bono was kind of a beatnik, that attire, the way he carried himself, he was sort of a product of that beatnik generation. So if you wanted a reference there. But this author basically was very instrumental in attributing to the beat culture and the beat literary movement. But he is said to haunt the building of Haslem's Bookstore because he frequented the bookstore in life. So, of course, he'd be hanging out there after death. There have been reports that people going in to visit the bookstore and maybe pick up a book off the shelf, behind them a book would, fall off the shelf, and they'd go to look and there'd be no one there. Things of that nature. So not really a malevolent sort of spirit, but just somebody that wants you to know that he's there and that he hasn't gone anywhere. So that's the story of Haslem's Bookstore. The Beach Drive Inn is located at 532 Beach Drive. The Beach Drive Inn has closed, probably again because of the pandemic. I hope that it will reopen soon. When I went by there, it didn't look condemned or anything. I think it's just been closed for some time now, but hopefully new ownership will take place soon and the place will be revived and you can once again go and visit the Beach Drive Inn. But the Beach Drive Inn opened in 1910. Guests who have stayed in the Montego room have reported seeing a rocking chair in the room going back and forth, rocking on its own. They've also encountered beautiful music coming from somewhere. When they go to look to see where the music is coming from, it's nowhere to be found. And guests that have gone out onto the veranda there at the inn have reportedly seen visions of a mist sort of coming out of the ground and sort of disappearing as quickly as it came in. One other quick place I'll tell you about that is haunted is Williams Park. Williams Park is a public park there in the center of downtown St. Petersburg, and it is known to be haunted by a woman who used to frequent the park and walk her dog. Evidently, she still likes doing so after death. So people have reported a woman walking her dog there in the park in the wee hours or late at night and seemingly vanishing as soon as she's seen. It is an interesting place to go. They have a band shell in the park. There's a fountain there and even a monument in memory of our veterans. So it is a nice park to go to if you want to have a little picnic lunch or something. It's right in the middle of St. Petersburg. But that concludes our little ghost tour of St. Petersburg, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining me again today. If you loved this video, please like, subscribe, share, leave a comment. All of these things help. I want to continue to do this and be able to go out and research these places for you. There's a lot of paranormal investigators out there and people that are just interested in this kind of stuff, and I want to keep bringing you the goods, but I have to be able to get your support, and it means so much to me. So please like, subscribe, share the video. If you're going out this St. Patrick's Day, please be safe. If you plan to drink, don't drive. Take a Uber, take a Lyft. Sure, it might be a little more expensive these days, but it's worth it, trust me. I don't want any of you to be unsafe or, even not here the next day. So let's be sure that we're, we're being conscientious with ourselves and not getting into any trouble. Even though trouble sometimes can be fun, let's keep it kosher. But anyway, I'll see you next time.